It wasn't a Friday the 13th, but still things didn't quite go smoothly from the start. After a month of waiting, I finally replaced my old graphics card with the new top-of-the-line RTX 4090, and I was really itching to try things that were previously inaccessible to me. Using NVIDIA's Audio2Face neural network to create facial animations for a Metahuman based solely on an audio track, you'd think what could possibly go wrong.
Okay, that's a clichéd phrase. Just like referring to the depth of a rabbit hole. By the way, it all started not with a rabbit, but with a Ghidra.
After filling out the registration form on the NVIDIA website, I finally got the download link for Omniverse. Excitement filled the air as I clicked the link and...
Error. The request could not be satisfied. Request blocked. We can't
connect to the server for this app or website at this time. There might be too much traffic or configuration error. Try again later.
On a hunch, I tried downloading it through my private proxy server.
It worked. Something was definitely fishy. I installed Omniverse and launched it, only to be greeted by another error. Unable to download GDP agreements and EULA. But then I noticed a hint that this program could work through a proxy server. Alright, let the proxy games begin. And that's where I spent my first few hours. You'll never guess why. I meticulously laid out the rakes, one by one. They beckon me, their siren call irresistible. I'm just a merry farmer, unable to resist their allure. The Omniverse documentation listed command line parameters for configuring an HTTP proxy, but that wouldn't work for me. I had only a SOX proxy set up through an SSH connection to a remote virtual server. In a moment of nostalgia, I tried routing all the app's traffic through SOXGAP, a program that forces applications to use a SOX proxy. For some reason, it didn't work. The same download error persisted. In a frantic search, I sought a simple HTTP proxy server that supported SOX upstream. This setup was getting weirdly convoluted, but I thought I only needed to download the GDPR agreements. How naive I was. The proxy worked, but Omniverse didn't budge. No changes. This situation was becoming increasingly infuriating. I had envisioned a simple process. Toss an audio file into Audio2Face, press a few buttons, get an animation, and drop it straight into Unreal Engine. Instead, I found myself battling CloudFront, which seemed determined to throw obstacles in my way. But why? Unable to understand why adding a proxy server on the command line did nothing, I decided to complicate the chain. I had MITM proxy, an interactive proxy that allows you to peek inside the passing traffic. And you know what? I saw nothing. Absolutely nothing. It turned out the application was simply ignoring the command line parameters. After double-checking the parameters for typos and rereading the documentation, I scoured the NVIDIA forums for answers. Could it be that they forgot to include command line parameter handling in the Windows version? But I found nothing except complaints about the same CloudFront access issues I was facing. The growing sense of nostalgia, awakened after installing SOXCAP, started whispering in my ear. I couldn't quite make out what, but my fingers were already typing a prompt to ChatGPT, asking what the latest and greatest was for reverse engineering. Flashbacks flooded my mind. A black screen, the soft ice debugger running, Windows system clocks scrambled, seemingly counting the hours spent in debug mode. The open source Ghidra from the GitHub account of the US National Security Agency caught my eye again. The plan was simple. Disassemble, find where command line parameter processing happens, and check why the proxy server parameter was being ignored. This whole ordeal was turning into a challenge, and I found myself in a state of flow. I love this state. It envelops your consciousness, completely pulling you out of reality. Hours spent in the flow state feel like mere minutes. It gives you immense productivity, but drains you dry. There are no longer 24 hours in a day. Days themselves cease to exist. There's only the moment when your body needs to pause to sleep and then continue, or not, for everything in life demands a price. I got hooked on these dopamine roller coasters as a child when I started programming on my ZX Spectrum, saving programs on audio cassettes. Over such a long period, the brain irreversibly changes. You're always searching for something that can consume you Holy. Ordinary life seems dull and dreary, but everything changes
when you finally enter the flow state again.
I downloaded and installed the required Java runtime and development kit launching Ghidra to initiate analysis of the Omniverse launcher. The listing that unveiled itself induced a mild bewilderment. Mild at first, everything appeared strangely unfamiliar. After some probing, I realized it was a packaged Electron application. Following a brief investigation, as I had never delved into JavaScript development, I managed to unpack the application and dive into the source code. I located the section that checked the proxy server command line flag, but found nothing suspicious that could trigger the bug. Next, I examined the function responsible for loading the EULA and GDPR agreements. I found the links, downloaded the files to my browser, and contemplated feeding them to the program in response to its requests, substituting the host. But they were using HTTPS, and I'd have to concoct a workaround for handling certificates. No, that would be overkill. Patching the JavaScript code and attempting to rebuild the Electron application seemed an even greater excess if I had never attempted such a feat before, and I wasn't even certain it would reassemble correctly. The simplest solution convinced the program that we had already reviewed the EULA and GDPR agreements, which, truthfully, we had. I analyzed the load preferences function, loading settings from privacy tom file, and then added 2 new parameters. The first rakes flew into the bushes. Success. The program launched, and I gained access to the Omniverse's main interface. I found the desired Audio2Face application, clicked install, and there it was. That painfully familiar sound. The sound of rakes hurtling straight towards my forehead. CloudFront is discriminating against my IP address again. Error. Can't download. I was about to set up a system-wide VPN, even though I really didn't want to. Then, suddenly, I discovered that the UI genius at NVIDIA decided on my behalf that closing the app by clicking the X button wasn't necessary. Turns out, all my attempts to launch Omniverse from the command line with a proxy server were doomed from the start. Why? Because the Omniverse launcher was still running the whole time, its icon hidden away in the system tray where I couldn't see it. Well, let's send those developers some rays of happiness, and let's hope they get calculated on the CPU. I rubbed my forehead. Without much emotion, I snapped those metaphorical rakes over my knee and tossed them into the bushes. That's it, I thought. Yeah, right, thought the rakes. After fumbling around in the interface for a bit, I finally figured out how to load a WAV file into the program and get some facial animation. Of course, I watched several tutorials first, but I couldn't find one that precisely matched my situation. The entire conundrum lay in the blend shape and joint conversion section. Why was the blend shape solver missing, and where could I find it? I had no idea. I randomly dragged examples onto the scene, desperately seeking any combination of blend shape solver settings that would make exporting possible. At long last, I grasped the coveted USD animation file. Brimming with hope, I launched Unreal Engine 5, only to be met with a mocking error message upon import, a cruel slap in the face from the universe itself.
Did I ever tell you what the definition of insanity is? Insanity is doing the exact
same thing over and over and over and over and over again, thinking, this time we're gonna be different. No, please. This time is going to be different. I repeated the export process again and again, like a madman trapped in an endless cycle of futility. Each attempt yielded the same mocking error, taunting me with its refusal to cooperate. Yet I persisted, driven by a relentless determination that teetered on the edge of madness itself. Export, import, error. Export, import, error. The cycle repeated ad nauseum, each failure chipping away at my sanity, bit by agonizing bit. Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity? So, I found myself stuck in a dead end. I was starting to lose hope. The files I was working with were invalid, and I couldn't figure out how to validate them. I hit up the NVIDIA website, Universal Scene Description USD, an open and extensible ecosystem for describing, composing, simulating, and collaborating within 3D worlds, originally cooked up by Pixar Animation Studios. How do I validate these files? I delved into the depths of the internet, scouring websites and forums. Determined to break free from this digital purgatory, I stumbled upon a GitHub repository called USD Python Tool. After a bit of wrestling with the installation, let's just say it wasn't the smoothest ride, I managed to launch a validation utility. Confirm my thoughts. The file was about as valid as a $3 bill. Back to the drawing board. YouTube, my old friend, here we go again. After what felt like an eternity of mindless scrolling, I struck gold, a video where the creator was doing exactly what I needed, and there it was, the Holy Grail. The author was adding a bland-shaped solve from NVIDIA asset samples. But wait, where in the name of all that is pixelated did he get that? I didn't have anything remotely resembling that. But, hold on, could it be a glimmer of hope at the end of this forsaken tunnel? I could almost taste victory. A stroke of genius, or maybe just desperation, led me to the Nucleus tab in the Omniverse launcher. Time to create a local Nucleus service. As I set it up, they insisted I create a login and password. Why, oh why, do I need this for a local service? I don't need outside access, for crying out loud. But fine, whatever makes you happy, Omniverse. Login, password, wait for installation, service launch. Back to Audio2Face. Create a new connection on localhost. Authorization window pops up. I enter my shiny new credentials. Authorization error. Double check everything. Triple check. Authorization error. Fine, let's nuke it from orbit. Delete local Nucleus service. Set it all up again from scratch. Connect again. Authorization error. Why? Why, cruel universe? I refuse to accept this. The finish line is right there, taunting me. I've invested too much of my sanity in this to give up now. Postpone? Not a chance. I stare at the authorization form, my mind racing, and then I type admin. What sort of cosmic joke is this? Why were my carefully crafted login and password demanded during the local Nucleus service setup so callously ignored? I don't know whether to laugh or cry. Probably both. At the same time, hysterically. Did I mention those metaphorical rakes? Yeah, they're back. And they are laughing.